So Slippages is a two-person exhibition here at Paradise Works. The show brings together works by Sarah Blaszczok, who's a Manchester-based artist and a studio member here at Paradise Works, who works predominantly in photography, and Anna Genovés, a Spanish artist who lives and works in London. And the work here is the large-scale sculpture works. While the works might be different in form, there's lots of really interesting parallels between the way Anna and Sarah approach the work. They're both kind of interested with how people encounter and engage with the work, and also like to play with the idea of constructing spaces and structures that visitors might find are familiar but are also obscure, and so perhaps they're not quite sure what they're looking at, or what their relationship is with the work.
Well, when you first proposed the show to me, one of the things that it attracted me to the idea of it was this thing of the artifice and the in opposition to the banal. And I kind of thought that was something that I had never explored enough in my work, and I've always wanted to. So I think that was like my main hook. I thought,
for me, I think the idea of what you said about the artifice and things, that kind of concept, even though maybe through the photographs, I can play around with that in a different way, I guess, because it's the construction or the subject matter, what's in the image is obviously in the photographic plane, but with the photographic works here, I'm interested in playing around with the idea of artifice, in, I guess, more linking to a facade or something that perhaps looks more kind of established or finished, a space or an object or a construction that's could be complete or could exist somewhere else, but in fact it doesn't. It's just made for the camera. So that element of artifice, I think, was what I kind of linked to.
To see some of these works take on a new life in a new space. How do you feel about that?
I was quite surprised by them, because as artists you get surprised by your own work all the time, and it's not that you never are 100% of what you're doing. You think you're in control in a way, but you're not in control of this, and you shouldn't be in control, and all these surprises keep on happening. And I was quite surprised yesterday when I saw the show finished, because especially this room, maybe this room in contrast with that room, but this room, it seemed to me so stark and banal and almost like quite pessimistic in some way. And it made me think of all these objects are like these defunct, old, false things. And it made me think of how we surround ourselves in all our everyday lives with a film of control. So like you go into the street, the pavement, the tarmac, then you go into your house, the wall, the floor, everything. So we just cover the world with a surface of control. And this is kind of we get used to that. We think that's our reality, and then we get used to it, and we go out of that whenever we go into nature. And by the way, a garden is still a control. The plants have been manipulated to be the way they are. And then you go into nature and you go, the indifference of the sea just moving, the indifference of clouds, and it's kind of quite scary, that. So I think that makes us go back to our cocoon of, it's like a mirage. We have like a mirage. And so those were the thoughts that these kind of strange objects made me think of.
I mean, I guess just thinking about my photographs, I guess most of the photographic works in this show, I've tried to kind of use bits of that. So kind of whether it's sort of things that are usually in the background that you encounter, whether it's kind of bits of walls or plaster that are normally kind of architectural, that are just kind of there and you don't really kind of focus on, maybe.
Do you think you are trying to elevate those objects in some way?
I don't know, I guess reactivate, is how I've thought about it, or that they're changing what they're very kind of normal, functional, uses, and then I guess they become reactivated through some of the photographs.
But they are really sublime. They're like so beautiful, and it's like then you're looking at them and you think, wow, and there's like bits of plaster. And then you're like, wow, bits of plaster. So you're like in this threshold of you can't decide what it is that you're looking at because it's doing both at the same time. Because art is always doing that, right? It's always trying to get these oppositions, and I always think that the role is to get these oppositions in a kind of perfect balance. So you confuse those categories to such an extent that you are like, and then this space opens up where you actually are allowed to think of other things.
So this alternative is like created, isn't it? Where something could potentially happen, or something possibly could happen, or it could be.
And when we were originally talking about this show, we talked a lot about theatrical spaces and how some things might nod towards a stage set or props, and the idea that it's void of any sort of protagonist or any subject, and actually in a way a visitor kind of becomes an active participant in this space. Do you still feel like that is a central theme within this show?
I think the word stage is definitely something that's interesting here. This thing of like an object waiting for you to come along and be the subject. But then we remove the subject. Well, the subject is the viewer, but the subject becomes the stage when the viewer is not there. The viewer has to decide whether he wants to be the subject or not. But there's a kind of emptiness to this setup. But that room there is not doing that, and I think that's kind of quite interesting because that room is the complete artifice, and I think that's a really interesting contrast between the rooms.
Thinking about, I think about Anna's work, this idea of revealing the backs of things, I guess, is something quite exciting. I think
it's a new thing. I've never done that, and it's quite scary. Anyway,
how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel like suddenly my top is off. And it's like But I mean, an exhibition is an experiment, and that for me that was a very interesting experiment to do. Like, what happens when you reveal it? Like, are you killing something, or are you starting something?
With my photographs, I guess the things in them are constructed for the camera, and they're kind of temporary. So in that way, they're kind of linked to sort of, I guess, a theatre set or a film set, and their things are very interesting.
And with your works in the show, I'm very keen to make sure that the objects were not present. Everything operates through the photographs.
Yeah, so I guess it's interesting that obviously Anna's work's sculptural, 3D, and all my work here is 2D, and that's how my current work is. That's how I'm working, because I'm interested in the image and the potential space within a photographic image or a screen space or photographic space, what that could be, how big is that, where is that, those kinds of concepts. But there are still sculptural elements in there, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you haven't done that. The frames of your photos are almost there's no frame. There's nothing there to separate.
A border or anything.
Like a border that is like a buffer zone. So there's none of that. It's like it goes straight from the wall into it. So, and even the little ones that have got the MDF plasterboards, it's like the same language. So you are already there's a transition from reality into fiction that is just smoothless. And I think that's such a important thing.
Okay. And do you still take photographs then? Is that part of your...
Yeah, I've always, all these objects come from photos that I've taken in journeys or anywhere. Like
Yeah.
but it's quite interesting because when I'm walking and I see something far away, I go, "Oh, there's something there." You know, I get really excited. But I don't look at it. I just put the camera immediately between me and the object.
Yeah.
I need to see the object in a photo for me to be able to use it.
Right.
I think the reality of an object in the street is always too potent, is too overwhelming, and that's why public art is impossible.
Right. Yeah.
Because you cannot fight reality.
Yeah,
So reality takes over and swallows whatever you're doing, and it's really hard to do it right. But they all have their strange places where they come from. Like that's from a mini golf in Scotland.
Right. Okay.
That one comes from the big kind of it comes from a mixture of you know those churches that are tin, made of tin, corrugated tin. Partly that, partly some kind of street oven that I found in, what was it, Egypt somewhere? So it's kind of, and some church, it's a kind of religious thing going on there also. This is from a strange tile object that I found in Germany. These were in a room, in a station, and there was a party that they had been a party, so people were cleaning up and they were still a little bit like drunk post-party. And then I thought, oh, those objects are amazing, so I took photos of them. And then I went out of this room and I saw that there was a sign that was saying that these objects were the shower trays of the Jews when they were taking the Jewish people into the concentration camps. It was just like this blow, like, wow, these objects just there, like waiting, and all these things of history, you know, we've used these objects for horrible things, for like a party, for nothing, you know, they've been empty there for years. And it's like they're just waiting there, they're just there, and we are like moving around with our chaos and our craziness. These objects just like waiting there for all these strange, contradictory actions to happen around them. So that comes from that.
Thank you both for being part of the show.
No, thank you for making this happen. It was amazing experience.
Yeah, thanks. So it's been great. Thank you.
And thanks, Paradise Works.